Okay, hey everybody, this is Grace. Today is April 9th, 2025, and it's 7:26 p.m. And in this video, I'm going to talk about, lately I've had some of these old expressions, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The southern way to say it. I don't know if other people said, if it's not broke, then don't fix it. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's on my mind. There was another one I wish I would have written it down, because there were several of them actually, but the main ones were that one, and when somebody sells their soul to the devil, people can take it as literal or as just as an expression, depending on how you believe. And then there's also things like, that one made me think about when people are blaming the victim. Okay, so let's talk about, that one, and maybe, mix some of them in with it. How about that? Okay, I've said this before in the past. I don't live my life by things like expressions, or, some people use the thing of, be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. And they act as though there's some kind of a law, that it's said, it's been spoken, or you can't fix stupid. The thing is, once it's said, that's it. Everybody's supposed to believe it that way. It's just common sense. That whole thing of common sense. That's just common to you and the people you can find who think like you. Okay, use logical sense. That's the big thing. Can you? Anyway, they find something just to hold on to, and that answers all the questions and puts everything right in a little box, and that's how you're supposed to see it. I am not that type of person. I do believe in things like one size does not all fit. One size does not fit all. I remember when this was little, when I was young, and I was real young. I don't know how old. My mother took me to a store, and it was the first time I had ever heard it, and I was thinking it's the first time something like this was out. And that was a shirt that says one size fits all. Okay, I mean, it was literal. It meant that one size fits all. And it was these, I think they were called muumuus, and it was a fashion then for, I don't care what ethnic group. It was a thing that it was probably in the 1970s, and people wore them. Women wore them, I should say. I don't know about men. I never saw any men wear them, but women were wearing them, and they were on sale. I remember the store and all that, and it was one size fits all. Well, I bought one. I got my mom to buy one. Did not fit me that great. I'm a tall woman, and I would not be accused of being petite at all in any way. So, I was really strong then. I've always been female, and to each their own with that. But I've always been female, and I was always tall. My dad was 6'7". I did not say 5'7". I said 6'7". That's all he would admit to. And he was built like a linebacker. Me and my siblings, we all got it, honestly. The shortest sibling was 5'7". So, there was 4 of us were female, 1 male. He's the tallest, 6'5". Okay, lately we've had a lot more people walking around. Somebody's walking around. They're trying to sell something. They're saying that there's a new cable and this new fire, this, that. No, it's not. And they've already been down here, and they just walked behind me again. So I went and made sure I put up the signs that say no trespassing, no solicitations, no all that. Beware of dog, you're on camera, on and on. Put them back on, up. No, don't be coming to my door. 2 people have come to our door today. Two different. I think it was 3 people, but 2 sets. Okay. Anyway, But this one about, let me get to this here. I shut it off for a few minutes. But that of blaming the victim. And then, like I said, recently I have, well, let me get to this point. Recently, I have been making videos about seeing something I have seen for many years. I've made videos on it year after year. Pretty much at some point, at least once during a year, I would make videos about Ebeggars, grifters, anything online, beggars, grifters, charlatans. I like that word. I really do. Doesn't it sound kind of like what it means to, you know? Really, look it up. What else? Swindlers, con artists, scammers. There's so many words for it. Flim flam. I always thought that one was cute. I think it's more like my mother's or her parents' age. You know, my parents' age. You know, group. Time. I don't know. It's always our time as long as we're alive. Anyway. Okay, so I've made these, and lately I've seen one. I mean, I've heard this since I was a child. And when I was a child, I didn't see it so much. But I heard about these, and as I got more and more I got older, I would see people who would use, say they're very religious, you know, that kind, that they're Christian. It was always Christian anytime. I'm not going to talk about other religions because I don't know enough about them, but I was born and raised Christian. And, seeing and hearing people say that they are Christians and they do not do things that are Christian-like. Now, Christians, I have never known anybody to be perfect. I have known some truly holy people. I had that privilege, seriously, growing up, truly holy. They weren't, as I say, they weren't, angels on Sunday and Wednesday, dinner time, when I was growing up, that's when most of these Christian churches had church, okay, Sunday, and, then they weren't, angels and real true Christians and all that holy those days, and the rest of the day to be hellraisers. Okay, that to me is not a Christian, and a lot of what I've seen is just that. The older I got, the more I saw that. And now these people who get online and make videos, and there are these ones that are getting money off of their audience, not necessarily their subscribers. They make videos and they will start off, I've mentioned that I've seen the whole, as if it's so scripted. They're reading from a script, and first they do this and then they do that, because they're always so similar to one another, their whole pattern. And sometimes they start off with a legitimate thing, just talking about their woes, like we all have. We all have bad things happen to us at some point in life, if it's not even at the end of it. But during their life, everything's not rosy, not perfect. There are people who, they just don't have too many troubles. But I'll say the majority of people have troubles at some point. And I don't have any statistics on it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so what I've seen is the people who will then, they start off like that, and then the next thing you know, they are con artists like you wouldn't believe. They're woe is me all the time. Woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. This is bad, it's happened, this is bad. Oh, my life. But now, I have lived a life, it was bad. It's been bad. I have a rare health condition. I don't need to say more. That health condition causes so much trouble. I don't mention the name of it anymore. I have found that the people online will use anything if they hear somebody else's health condition or somebody else's woes and troubles and stuff. They add it to their own. The people who do this, not everybody. The people who are these beggars, scammers, so on and so forth, they will use anything. And one of them is doing it right now. And it's not, they don't just pick on one person. They go around looking at people saying, oh, I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take that, and I'm still in this one. And I'm going to copycat that. And yeah, I'm going to put it all together. And oh, woe is me, woe is me. And let me get my Bible and open it up and read Christian Bible, read some stuff in there. I got to do that. I got to remember to do that. I got to, they just have these things they write down, or they have the script for it. Like I said, it's like as if it's on a script. And, they have to do all these little things to keep their audience sending them lots of money. Some of them send $2, some of them send $200, some of them send $500. I have seen those. Not my own. You won't see any of those things on my channel. I don't want to tempt fate, and I don't play that game, but no, you don't see it. I've been online. August will be 11 years. 11 years on my original channel, so nope, you never seen one. Those PayPals or whatever, nope. So I use it for venting. I use my videos. Well, some of them are for fun, like shopping videos, and then there's some for, they're kind of calming to me, and then there's the ones that are just for venting. Can you believe people like this? And that's what I'm doing right now, venting about that. I don't point out who it is. I don't give their name, how bad they are and stuff. But yeah, they will take little bits here, little bits. Oh, I want to make that part of my own identity. I like that. You see, this is what they do. This is their game. This is their hustle. Some people actually think hustling, and they know it doesn't mean anything good, hustling. No, they think hustling is a good thing to brag about. That they're hustlers. They lie. They cheat. It used to be when I first started on, like I say, almost 11 years, that people knew, you don't go around bragging that you're hustling people. You don't go around, bragging about how much, people are sending you, and you don't, all these things you just didn't do, and now it seems like it's just kind of like, okay. You didn't brag about copycatting and stealing other people's ideas and stealing their thunder, stealing whatever you can, copycat. You didn't brag about being an adult mean girl, a narcissistic person of history. You didn't brag. These days, people, I've seen them. I've seen it. They brag. It's just like, and then the ones, like I said, the ones that are scripted, they even go as far as to do the same thing of they insulting their audience, like as if they're insulting, saying insulting things about or even to their audience, all the while believing the audience is so stupid they're not going to figure it out. And that would be blaming the victim, because these people who do this are master manipulators, generally speaking. Some are just downright stupid people. Really stupid. Seriously. I have seen some. I've seen so many that, like I say, almost every year I go through a round of making videos on it. Because usually I'll run across one or two or three or 5 or 10, however many I run across at one time. Seriously. It's not like there's just one out there. I mean, these social media platforms are not really that small, and often they're going to do it on more than one social media platform. So anyway, and it's not just going to be the one person. It's not even going to be people related to one another in any way. They just do them. Many people sometimes. But the ones, and I've known more than one doing them now. Okay. And there's also the ones I didn't mention. The ones, I wish I could remember what they call them. But these are the ones that say that they're doing things like parodies, or might even call, what do they call them? They're basically saying, putting themselves up on this pedestal and saying they're looking down on these people who are doing stuff like that, like grifters. When they themselves, the ones who are saying that they're talking, and they'll name the name, of it. I talk about the behaviors. I don't talk about the person. I'm talking about their behaviors. And so I don't mention their channel name, their however you can link to it, none of that stuff. But they do, because they're going to make money off of it. Okay, they want to make that money off of it, and they're just as bad. Okay, I've seen it, so many of these things. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about was that of blaming the victim. And there are people out there who said, well, it's nobody's business. They get that whole attitude. It's nobody's business. If people want to spend their money on stupid people like that, then it's nobody's business. Or they say, well, they're just so stupid. No. The people who can't feel empathy, those are the ones I would be really worried about. That is actually, you can look it up, about narcissistic people. They tend not to feel empathy. A lot of these cluster B personality disorders in the DSM, cluster B personality disorders, like there's narcissistic, there's histrionic, there's borderline, and antisocial. A lot of them, I would say all of them, and all of them, for the most part, they do not feel empathy. They can't put themselves in somebody else's shoes and think, how would I feel if somebody then blamed me? I know I ran across this person when I was young. Those who do, they think, I remember running across somebody, and I believed her, or I believed him, and then come to find out, they were just trying to make some money. They were just trying to get this or get that. I cannot imagine anybody who's not been there. Okay. Been there, done that kind of thing. I just can't imagine. And I think they're lying if they say that somebody, I don't like to use the word fooled them. Because saying somebody was fooled is blaming the victim again. Because these are master manipulators. They know how to manipulate other people. They do it from youth, as I've seen. Especially those with histrionic behaviors. They just want everybody to look at them. They don't care if it's a negative attention, a positive attention. They want that attention. They want to be the center of it. And anybody who just disagrees with them, they call them, they're just haters. That's what they say these days, just haters. Just haters. No, these are people who figured you out. Chances are they figured you out. Or they just don't agree with you. You're stupid. Anyway, but they're these ones that they were really set it up in themselves. They know that they're sitting there. They're fully, sounding like the word fool. That's blaming the victim. They are doing this. They are master manipulators, but they're going to say that they're going to blame their own victims. Well, they shouldn't have been so stupid. And then there are all these people who wannabes who want to be like that, making the money. They'll say, well, you shouldn't tell them what they should spend their money on. You can't tell people what they should. The people can spend their money on whatever. This kind of thing. Yeah, they don't want people to make, others have awareness. Don't spend money on charlatans. Don't spend money on these grifters, these ebeggars, these con artists, these scammers. Okay, I don't remember where it was on this wall, but at some point you start getting an optical illusion. Yeah, it might be right around here. But anyway, where was I? But yeah, this has these on my mind about, like, when the person, like you're watching these, say you're watching someone who becomes one of these scammers, or these, whatever you want to call it, whatever they become, or they start showing it, just become, it would seem like that, like if they start, like I said, start off so nice and everything, but once they realize, ooh, they're getting money, they're getting lots of money, ooh, I'm gonna, but you can question, isn't that part of their personality in person, before they got online, before, you see what I'm saying, or were they online before on just a different platform, and then people, started, which often happens, is people start figuring it out, and they start, they basically kick them, get them, they kick them to the curb. They say, get out of town, get out of here. And they'll do that. They'll go to another platform, or they'll just stay hidden for a while. But then they'll go to another one, generally, or come back. Like they're a new person in a new genre, new this, new that, and they just start all over again. Lather, rinse, repeat. But, yeah. Okay, but, I had this thought, how you're watching somebody. At first, they legitimately have a problem, like I said, and then you just, you start watching more and more and more, and then all of a sudden there's that moment when you realize, they started realizing they're getting money and all this stuff, and then they realize that, and they start using it, religion, whatever, everything, like I said, that's on the script, to get more money and all that, and that's when they've sold their soul to the devil. That kind of moment. How many of us have seen it? With these Ebeggars, Grifters, on and on and on. I have. And it's so sad. Lather, rinse, repeat. And then another one comes up, and another one, and another one, and another one. And it's so sad because some of the stuff that they do, like I said, steal people's. One of the first ones I heard was somebody who heard about. I wasn't, knowing that it was happening at the time. Well, that wasn't the first one I heard about. That wasn't even the first one I noticed. But I had heard about was someone claiming she had cancer. They'll use anything. I mean, how low can you go? She did not have cancer, but she knew that was going to make her money. Some of them are so low. And but yeah, like I said, they'll sell their soul, and they'll get up there and act as though there's some kind of a, not exactly, well, maybe in a way that they'll act as though there's some kind of profit. They are, religious. They act as though they're real religious, and, use a voice so people will listen to them as if, yes, they've gone to church forever, and they know exactly what everybody needs, Oof, it just makes my skin crawl. It's cringe. That they try so hard. You even bring the Bible and look through it. Look through the Bible and all this stuff. Like I said, there was one who was basically, she does it. I said there's more than one I've seen lately. And, but she had at one point, nobody was asking to her. It wasn't part of really, kind of like the theme of the genre she was using, but not exactly. But she basically said that the devil was not the most evil. Nobody was asking her. And, yeah, the devil wasn't, it was some kind of common, everyday, what people thought was bad behavior. Okay, not the devil. I don't know of any true Christian, that doesn't think the devil is the most evil, okay? Really. But to use something that's just common every day, what people say, wow. But anyway, I mean, just, oh my goodness. But then to do that thing of saying, blaming the victim. Blaming the victim, when I was at university, attending classes, at least one, we were taught, that was back, I was a career student for 20 years. But I am 61, and that was way back then. And it was common to hear people like, married couple or something, married couple, say, male-female married couple. And they would say, well, why doesn't she leave him, like if he was bad to her? Well, some people would say, I don't want to hear her anymore. And, they'd talk like that. The ones that really don't feel the empathy. So, she knows what he is. She knows he does this. And she keeps going back to him. See, that's blaming the victim. Blaming the victim. They'd say, why doesn't she just leave him? I'm not going to listen to her until she leaves him. Well, the thing was that we were taught was it's not why doesn't she, the question is not why doesn't she leave him. The question is what in our society makes him think that he can do that and get away with it. Does one come to mind at least? The whole thing of blaming the victim. Why doesn't she leave him? You see? So on that note, I'm going to wrap this up. Talk to you on another video. Bye.